Welcome to the Cool Things Entrepreneurs Do podcast with your host, Tom Singer. In each episode, we explore the interesting lives of business leaders, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, and others who have a healthy dose of the entrepreneurial spirit. It is time to explore something cool. Now, here is your host, Tom Singer.
Hey, and welcome to another episode of Cool Things Entrepreneurs Do. Thank you so much for pulling your chair up to the cool kids table. You know, we are over 450 episodes, and when I started this show, I never thought I'd get to 50. But I did this. I started this podcast really as a way for me to have access to entrepreneurs who were doing really interesting things, because I believe one thing is always true, and that is success leaves clues. So this podcast was my chance to get access to people who were doing things that were successful, and maybe they would leave a little breadcrumb, a little nugget, a little morsel behind that I could pick up on. Well, we've now grown a whole community. We've got people who listen to this show all over the world, and it's become a lot of fun, and it's become a major part of my business. So for those of you who might be new to the show, I make my living as a professional speaker and corporate trainer. I go into companies and I talk about how do we work across the gap between potential and performance. Because in having now interviewed over 400 entrepreneurs and also surveyed another 500 business people, plus just the conversations I have when I'm sitting in a bar or I'm in an airplane and I talk to the person next to me, the gap between potential and results, it's real. But different things hold different people back. And the podcast has actually become a huge research tool for me, as well as a way that I get discovered by a lot of people to be able to speak in their company. So we're not stopping this anytime soon. I expect that we're going to see 1,000 episodes of Cool Things Entrepreneurs Do someday, because it's still a lot of fun for me. So before I get started with today's show, I need to thank one of the sponsors. Now, many of you in business, you have like products, physical things that you give or sell to your fans, your customers, but dealing with getting that stuff shipped out, oh my God, that is a pain and it steals all your precious time. Well, my friends over at Amplifier, they blend order fulfillment, screen printing, and on-demand production into a single self-service platform. And they can integrate with your e-commerce shop or help drive your giveaway campaigns. And they're perfect for giant companies or small entrepreneurs like myself. And I work with them for those Try New Things t-shirts. And thank you to everybody in the Cool Things community who has gone over to trynewthings.shop and bought one of those shirts, because they continue to sell, and I appreciate you for doing that. Well, Amplifier takes care of all of that for me. If you want to learn more about Amplifier, go over to amplifier.com/coolthings, and you can learn everything you need to know about this great screen printing and fulfillment company. Hey, so today I have a really interesting guy. He is sort of outdoorsy. He played college soccer. He likes to travel. He does all that stuff. But at the same time, he started a company that now has well over 200 employees, and they're still going strong. The company is called Lendio, and they're sort of like the Expedia for business loans. If you're a small business and you need access to capital, that can be a pain too. And Lendio helps you take care of that. You fill out one application and boom, they get you in front of the people who've got the money, which makes life a lot easier that you don't have to do that maybe 10 or 20 times. So I'm really excited to have with me today the CEO of Lendio, Brock Blake. Hey, Brock, welcome to Cool Things Entrepreneurs Do.
Thank you. What a pleasure it is to be on your podcast.
No, I'm glad to have you here. So, you know, I don't do those really long bios. Why don't you tell everybody about your business and what you do a little more thoroughly than what I just said?
So I think you did a pretty good job. We, at the end of the day, we fuel the American dream. What does that mean? There are millions of small business owners across the United States who have a passion to grow their business, hire employees, expand, purchase equipment, but they need capital to make it happen. Without Lendio, they might go bank to bank to bank, applying for a loan, getting declined. It's a bad, painful experience. It takes, on average, 26 hours to fill out these applications. So we have simplified that process. We have over 75 lenders on our platform. Just like you said, it's kind of like the Expedia for business loans. The business owner can fill out one application and then get access to many loan options where they can comparison shop the rate, the term, the payment amount, and choose the loan option that's the best fit for them. So we have funded over $1.3 billion of loans on our platform, over 65,000 transactions, and we're all about helping that small business owner.
In what period of time? When did you start the company?
So we started it in 2011, but we didn't actually fund our first. We've gone through a few business evolutions, and 2014 was really the start of what is currently today our marketplace.
Awesome. So, Brock, what led you to become an entrepreneur? What's your background?
Well, as you mentioned, I was playing soccer at Brigham Young University at BYU, and have just been an entrepreneur my whole life. I love looking at a challenge and figuring out how to do it better. And coming out of school, I did an entrepreneurial competition, kind of like the TV show The Apprentice, where you had 100 entrepreneurs. They narrowed down to 20, and then the 20 of us went through this 8-week competition or boot camp. And at the end, they selected 5 of us and gave us each $50,000 to go and start a business. So we could go and buy a business or start a business or whatever it is we wanted to do. So I've been an entrepreneur, right out ever since I graduated from college. And this is our second, I've done a few small things, but my second kind of real business, and just love the challenge of solving problems and helping customers.
So what was the first thing you did? What did you do with the $50,000?
So started a company called Funding Universe. And what we did is we connected entrepreneurs to angel investors and venture capitalists. It was more like a dating website. You'd go and you post your business plan, and you hope investors would come and look at it.
Investors are swiping left and right.
Yeah, exactly. Swipe left, swipe right. And we did speed pitching, not speed dating, but you'd go table to table to table. And what we realized was that the demand for capital from small business owners was extremely high. But getting it from an investor was not really the right fit. Only 1 or 2% of businesses were ever going to raise money from an angel or venture capital. Most were Main Street businesses. They needed a $25,000 loan, a $100,000 loan, and so on. And so, we built that up to about $10 million in revenue. And then, on nights and weekends, we started thinking, you know what? We think there's a better business model with this. And we ended up launching Lendio in 2011 from the learnings we had at Funding Universe.
So it's interesting because you talk about the fact that you played college level soccer. I've had a lot of people on this show who either played college or professional sports. Do you see a correlation to being that level of an athlete and being an entrepreneur?
I mean, I'm biased, but I think so. You learn so much about the grind and hard work and overcoming challenges, and you're extremely uber competitive at that level. Everyone, you're playing with, it was the best in their high school, the best in their town, maybe the best in their state. And so the level of competition really increases, and the level of work and effort required to succeed at that level keeps ratcheting up. And so I think that the hard work that you learn, overcoming challenges, the competitive drive, all those things are really skill sets that translate to being an entrepreneur.
So I'm a lot older than you, but back when I was in college, BYU was one of our big rivals, at least with football, because we were in the old WAC, and the actual whoever would win the WAC, it would either be BYU or it would be San Diego State every year. So our big game was always beating BYU.
We had some good games, BYU and San Diego State. I remember some of those.
So what do you love about this life of an entrepreneur? You've never done anything else. So what is it that gets under you and makes you say, yeah, man, this is what I love doing?
Well, it's not a job. I love the fact that it's just a challenge, and you wake up every single day thinking about how to solve that challenge. And it's a new challenge every single day. So the creativity, I love being able to see the effect of what we do. When we help a small business owner get a loan, and it allows them to grow or hire employees or those things, and they tell us that story, that's contagious. I love that. And I love building a culture. Our team, the team we have, and seeing them succeed and grow and progress, and what we're doing to hit new goals and check off milestones and come together. There's just so many aspects of an entrepreneur. I mean, we don't have enough time in the podcast to be able to talk about everything I love about it, but it's something that, I get up every morning just grateful that this is what I do for a living.
So you've grown the company too. You now have a bunch of people working for you. What's the biggest difference from when you're sort of starting, maybe back in 2011 at concept, to now having hundreds of people?
Yeah, so early on, you're really focused on product market fit and, identifying who that customer is, what is their pain point, and is this a problem that we're actually going to solve that will generate revenue? Are they willing to pay for that? And so it's primarily around, again, product market fit. Once you bring on team members and employees, now it is that is solving that problem you talked about between potential and what was the word you used?
So I talk about potential and performance.
Potential versus performance, and now with our team, it is you're able to hire a bunch of people that are way smarter than you in so many different areas, and you can empower them and make sure they know how they fit within the vision, but then give them the resources and let them go to work. And it's more about managing what I say kind of our organizational cadence or our operational cadence. It's around how do we align everyone around a common goal and allow people to go and succeed. There's quite a few differences, but it's more about people than it is around product. Early on is product.
Well, one of the things that I talk to people about this gap that exists between potential and performance or around results is that the problem is that when I get hired to come into like a company meeting, like a lot of companies have like an annual kickoff and they'll have everybody kind of in like a ballroom and, rah, 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 and they'll have, confetti cannons and stuff like that. And they'll bring in a speaker like me. When they hire me, what they really want is for me to have magic fairy dust, to sprinkle it over everybody and build some sort of a magical bridge across the gap between potential and results, and then put everybody on one bus. And by the time I finish my hour keynote, we've driven them all the way across the gap. The problem is it doesn't work that way because, as you know, managing as many people as you do, everyone has different things that holds them back. So we can't put everybody on one bus because everybody's got their own stuff going on. And one person might have 2 or 3 things. Somebody else is a mess. They have more. Somebody else just has one little glitch. But we all have something that's holding us back from reaching our potential. And then the other problem is I don't think you ever reach your potential because as a company or as an individual, as you go through life, you're going to listen to a new podcast. You're going to hear from somebody like you who's going to give them a nugget of information, or they're going to get an advanced degree, or they're going to get a certification. Their potential is going to shift. So you can't build a bridge because you can't do it. So I teach people, let's build a scaffolding. And then everyone can go out at their own pace. Some people on your team will fly across it. Some people will go really slow. Some people get out there and look down and go, ah. But it's different for everybody. And that's what, sort of where I take it. And what you said got me excited about that because I tell everybody it all comes down to people. You got to remember that everyone on your team is a human and we all have our own stuff. Yeah.
Amen. We read a book that we've really adopted called the 4 Disciplines of Execution a couple of years ago, where, I think when you get to this, I think it's the Dunbar effect, where you get it north of 150 people, there becomes more challenging to organize that group and work towards a common goal. And so you get distracted, and when you're distracted, the results suffer. And with the 4 Disciplines of Execution allowed us to really identify, you can't do more than 1 or 2 primary objectives. We call them WIGs, wildly important goals. So we take a really long time identifying what are the company WIGs, and then rally everyone around those 2, and then we go down the next level. What's the department WIG? So that if you accomplish that department WIG, it's going to lead to the company WIG, and then you take it down to the next level and you break it all the way down to that individual. On a weekly basis, what's the 1 or 2 things that individual should be doing that will have an effect on the company? And we have these, what we call accountability sessions each week to say, did we do it or did we not do it? And, a few of those things have made an enormous difference for us in our ability to execute is just some of those tried and true principles around kind of organizational behavior and the operational cadence of the company.
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir with me. I actually teach the exact same thing, but in reverse. I take it down to the individual. One of the key points of how do you get people to accomplish more is people have to try new things. I'm all about systems, and so many companies get so focused on their systems that everything has to fit into the system, and then they can't figure out why they're not getting any new results. And so one of the tenets of what I teach is you got to try some new things. And we talk about the fact that you've got to try, you got to try to get some new things going. And if it starts with the individual, when the individual tries new things, they grow. And then when the team tries new things, they're able to grow, and the team takes it up to the department and then to the company and essentially even then to the industry. I mean, so if you try new things at the person, you work your way up, eventually you change an industry, and I argue you can change a world. And therefore, we got to make sure that everyone on the team is trying to change and grow.
I love it. Yep. And I think similar principles, reverse order, but I love it.
Yeah, no, I get excited when I talk to people like you, because it's like I feel like I'm talking to, a kindred spirit. So I talk a lot about this gap between potential and results. And as a lifetime entrepreneur, you've seen a lot of people. I'm sure you belong to either like an EO or a Vistage group, or in some way you hang out with other entrepreneurs. So the thing I always point out to people is I say, okay, as an entrepreneur, you've seen a lot of people start businesses. You have friends, you have people in your community. Some of them succeed. Some of them get out into that gap and languish along, and some of them soar to heights where you're like, whoa, look at her. What do you think the delta is, why some people get more performance and more results, even though everybody started with potential?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's the challenge of a founder is that early on, you have to evolve. It's like you're a chameleon throughout the evolution of growing that business. So early on, there are certain skill sets that are incredibly valuable to being, like nailing that product market fit. And then as the organization becomes larger, you're now it's less about you being hands-on with your company and more about hiring people that are smarter than you and empowering them. And that requires a transition. Now you're focused on, these individuals and how they affect the company. And the larger the company gets, it's a different muscle group that you have to train and learn for you to be successful. And so, some people scale with the organization and some people don't. I also think there's a passion, maybe you were really passionate early on with the company and helping and talking to customers, and maybe you were the, best salesperson on the team and you were out closing deals. But then later on, you're not, the company isn't relying on you to do that. And so maybe you fall out of favor with, man, I don't really love this. This isn't what I don't love to run a big company. I actually really like the small company. And so there's a difference because the different skill sets, as you scale the business are unique to each stage of business. That may or may not be exciting to you, and it may or may not be one of your skill sets or talents that you want to do. And so it's hard for you to scale.
Yeah, I think that is true. I think the guy who I interviewed in episode 1 of Cool Things Entrepreneurs Do almost 5 years ago, and then I think again on episode 300 is a sort of a serial entrepreneur who I grew up with in Southern California, who lives here in Austin, Texas. And he's founded like 6 or 7 companies, and he likes that early stage. So when the companies get bigger, he's either sold them or taken them public and brought in a public company CEO. And he knows that his best spot is when the company is young and scrappy. And he's figured that out. And I think that's one of the things that continues to make him successful is he gets out there, he starts things, he gets them scrappy, and then he hands them over to someone who's going to be passionate about the next stage. Yeah.
And conversely, I have a good friend of mine who I know quite well, and he's tried different stages, and he's identified that he is so much better when the company has 200 employees or 500 employees, where he's more of a leader and organizing people and teams and large groups, and so I think it is more unique to be able to be very good at the founder, early stage, scrappy, and scale with the business and have a company that's 200, 400, 500, 1,000 employees. I think that's super unique to be able to do that. I think it's more common that you're either good at the beginning or good towards the later stage.
Sure, or in that middle section, because there's some people who do really good at taking over from the founder, but then it gets too big for them.
Yeah, taking it from 1 million to 10 million or 10 million to 100 million and so on. Yeah,
right.
No question.
Hey, Brock, this is fascinating. I like the way you think. I like what you're doing. I've got some more questions for you before I can let you go. But first, I have to thank the other sponsor of this episode. So this episode is brought to you by Podfly Productions. Podfly takes the time and the headache out of creating your own podcast. Podfly sets you up with the right equipment, training, and guidance to ensure that you sound amazing. Podfly does all the heavy lifting and the technical work so that you can focus on creating great content, growing your audience, and interviewing really cool people like Brock Blake. Hey, if you want to start a podcast, and I know that some of you do, jump over to podfly.net/coolthings and check out the offer that they have for the listeners of this show. So the listeners of the show, Brock, the listeners are either newer entrepreneurs or people who are stuck maybe in a corporate career and they feel their ladder is against the wrong wall and they want to branch out and do something on their own. So what advice would you have for somebody who wants to start a business or at least grow a brand new business?
You know, one of the hard lessons I learned as a young entrepreneur was there was this story I had where we had 8 people at our business, and it was the Friday before Christmas, and I had $50,000 to start, but we'd been burning through this $50,000, and it got to the point where I didn't have any money left to pay my employees. And you know, there's a story in and of itself around that where I had to come to them the day that I was supposed to pay them and say, unfortunately, I can't pay you. And you know, we told these, what I realized during this very, very painful experience was that we were so focused on playing business, you know, making sure my website was cool and the name looked good and the business cards and, you know, all these things that are fun and exciting and new. And you forget that business is about product market fit. It's about driving revenue. And you can't, so many entrepreneurs go out and they say, you know, I've got this business idea and I'm going to go talk to my friend and my aunt and my uncle and my cousin. And guess what? All of those people are going to tell you exactly what you want to hear. They're not going to actually, they may not be honest with you and say, hey, Brock or Tom, that business idea is a horrible business idea. Don't waste your time on it. And so my whole point around this is that before you go out and risk your career and other things like that, you can do a lot on the side at nights and weekends and go out and drive revenue. Go actually try and sell your product. Do the minimum amount of work you can possibly do to find out if you have something that people will buy. Go out and ask people, why will this not work? And get that feedback. And if you can because I think that people are kind of lulled into this false security that I've got a really good idea because all my friends and family told me it was a great idea.
Yeah, mom's never going to tell you you suck, even when you do.
Right. No one wants to tell you your baby's ugly, especially those that care about you. And I think that the painful experience that I learned that hopefully they won't have to learn is that if you focus on revenue, if you focus on actually adding value and someone is willing to pay for it, revenue cures a lot of mistakes and a lot of ills.
So it's interesting that you say that because this podcast will go live in late April of 2019, but we're recording it on April 1st. And April 1st, besides being April Fool's Day, is actually the 10-year anniversary that I have been working for myself. And I got laid off
Congratulations.
Well, yeah. And I mean, the irony of being laid off 10 years ago on April 1st has never been lost on me, right? So it was April 1st. I worked for a consulting firm as the director of marketing. Before that, I'd been a business development person for a bank, and I'd had a long career in legal marketing and business development and then sales before that. And so my background was really selling or at least developing new client relationships. And so I was all about revenue and new customers. And 10 years ago, I got laid off and I called my wife and I said, you know what, I'm going to try to become a professional speaker. And I think my wife secretly cried, but she was really supportive. She said, you know, I'll give you 3 years. You can blow through all our savings. You can put, you know, tens of thousands of dollars on a credit card. But at the end of 3 years, if you don't have a legit business, you're going to have to go get another job. Plus, if you remember, April 1st, 2009 was the bottom of the recession.
Wow,
I mean, that was there were no job. I didn't really have a choice but to go chase this dream of being a speaker. And I learned to be a speaker. I do a lot of corporate training. I have a really good niche role that I'm the master of ceremonies. Like I just did a big tech company's users conference in Puerto Rico. They had 300 of their customers. And, I can be the opening keynote speaker and kick off the whole event and sort of set that tone, for people to be more engaged. But at the time it was, who knew? But I knew one thing was true, and that was I had to have sales. Because, at the end of the day, if I didn't have customers, I wasn't going to be able to get cash flow positive and keep my family in the lifestyle. We didn't make really big cuts. We just assumed I would grow a business around this. And it hasn't always been easy, and we still have up times and a little bit of down times. But I'll tell you the interesting thing, people come to me all the time, and they're like, you've been a professional speaker for 10 years. I want to do that. And I say, well, I'm actually a salesman first. Because if I don't sell it, I don't get on your stage and talk to your audience. And so it's all about driving that revenue first. And that's why I, do things like the podcast. And that's why I write my blog. And that's why I have an outbound person who does outbound calls for me, because I have to find ways to drive revenue. And I think that what you said is true for all these companies and all these people who want to do it is even a great idea without customers is still going to bankrupt you.
Well, I think 95% of entrepreneurs have to be good salespeople. There might be a few, industries where that's not the case. Maybe you have a partner that's really a good salesperson, but I don't care what you're doing, whether it's your first product you're trying to sell or you're now, an entrepreneur leading a team of 100 employees. Your job is being a salesperson. I mean, you're selling to your potential team members, new employees. You're selling the vision to your company. You're selling, you're raising money from investors. And so you're selling that. You're going out and doing partnership deals. My brother, who's also a founder of a company that it's a nice growing SaaS business, his whole life he was account manager, customer experience. He was at Adobe. He was vice president of customer success at Adobe and doing really well. But the other guys would sell it, and then they'd hand the client off to him, and he would take care of them. And one of the things I said to him early on when he became an entrepreneur is I said, Dave, you're going to have to learn how to sell. And he's done that. And once he was kind of dependent early on of other people selling for him, but then he realized, no, I've got to be the best salesperson on the team. And once he did that, it changed the dynamic of his organization, and it really started driving more revenue. So we have to get outside of our comfort zone. We have to be comfortable in the uncomfortable. And sometimes that means sales.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I always, some people might not find it funny or whatever, but, they say prostitution, they call it the oldest profession. And I always say, no, she had to sell it first. So sales is the oldest profession, no matter how you, I don't know if that's an inappropriate joke, but it's sales totally, sales is the oldest profession. Without sales, there's no commerce. And without commerce, there's no economy. And, we're facing a point where a lot of naysayers out there are worried about, what's coming down the pipe here with the economy. And I'm like, that just means you're going to have to be better at sales.
Yep. Amen.
So I call the show Cool Things Entrepreneurs Do. What is the coolest thing Lendio is doing right now?
Well, man, there's so many cool things. It all starts with helping that one business owner that, needs financing. And I believe that no matter how big we get or how fast we grow or what new products we're offering, or the amazing culture that we're building, that people are just bought in, and this amazing team, it all has to go back. And that probably sounds boring, but it goes back to that one customer interaction. We take good care of that small business owner, help them get the loan they need. That fuels everything else we do. Now we've had 65,000 of those one conversations, but that is the coolest thing that we do on a day by day, hour by hour basis. And then above and beyond that, there's we've had just an incredible year and a bunch of other cool things that I could talk about. But that's first and foremost.
Well, give me one of those other cool things that's happened this year.
Well, so one of the things we launched a couple of years ago was it's a franchise business. And what does that mean? Well, we realized there's all these small business owners in local communities that are really connected to their chamber of commerce, connected to accountants and attorneys and insurance agents, and so what we identified is, hey, we could take Lendio, kind of a business in a box, and license it in a local community. And we have in that local community an entrepreneur that's going to all the events, that's working, helping that small business owner, that's connected with the accountant, the attorney, and helping those small business owners in that area get loans. And I just realized we now have over 60 markets of open across the country of people helping these small business owners, and that business is really growing and it's taken off. And that's one of the cool things we're doing. That's fun to watch.
Oh, that's awesome. So one of the last questions I ask everyone who comes on the show is, when you look out into the entrepreneur sphere and you see the world of entrepreneurs, who do you look at and say, wow, she or he, they're doing something cool? Because I think great entrepreneurs are observers. So I'd love to know who you think is cool.
Yeah, I have so many individuals that I look at and that are, just really great examples of different talents. And I think one that I've been studying lately, there are actually two. A gentleman named is actually a guy named Ryan Smith. He built a company called Qualtrics. He sold just recently. He was about to go public. The eve before his IPO, Qualtrics came in and gave him an offer, an $8 billion offer that he could not refuse. And the reason why I love Ryan Smith is everything I read about him, everything I see about him is that even though he just sold his company for $8 billion, he is focused on giving back. He's focused, he cares about his family, his kids. He cares about people. He cares about experiences. So it's this, I feel like he's doing it the right way. It's well balanced and those type of individuals who, it's not just about the almighty dollar, although $8 billion sell is
that's pretty good.
One of the most successful SaaS businesses ever.
I was going to say Lendio's going to go for that next year, right?
That's right. Next year or the year after. He still cares about people.
No, and that's good.
That inspires me.
No, it does inspire me. And it leads us into the last question, and that is, what do you do to give back to the greater good? Because I think as entrepreneurs, we have a responsibility, and I think that's more than just to make money. So what do you do to give back to society?
Yeah, so we at Lendio, there's a lot of things that we do, But I'll just talk about one initiative. We started this program a few years ago called Lendio Gives, and what it is it's actually driven by our employees. Will, out of every single paycheck, they'll take $2, $5, $10, whatever it is, where they decide, I want to give back. Every amount of donation that our employees contribute is matched by Lendio. And then we've taken all of those funds, and we are now one of the top 3 largest lenders on Kiva, where we are identifying entrepreneurs throughout the world, primarily third world countries. 90% of the people that we're funding are women. And it may be a $25 or $25 loan. It might be a $200 loan. It might, to help them buy a goat or help them buy a bike or help them buy a whatever, to help them become an entrepreneur in their local community. And so we call it Lendio Gives. And we now have done more loans. I think we've done, almost 6,000 loans. And we're up with the names of Apple and Google as far as donations given. So every loan that we do in America with our small business, just with our normal platform is also paired with a loan that we do on Kiva. We call it Lendio Gives. And we have every year we have in December was our Lendio Gives Month, and we rallied the organization. We just raised $6,000 driven by employee donations for a cancer initiative, and we just did another one around I can't even remember, Down syndrome. We just raised another $1,500. So we're always trying to figure out things that are meaningful to our employee base that can help. We can look outside ourselves and give back to someone that may be in a less fortunate situation.
Well, I love the way you do it by just getting people to give whatever they can, $10 here, $3 there, $7 there. I was fortunate enough a year ago, I did a TEDx talk, and it's called The Art of Giving Small. And we talked, and I'm a solopreneur, it's just me and my wife. And so we talked about what we did. And 12 years ago, we started giving just a little percentage point every time I was hired to give a speech. And back then I was speaking for like $1.95 and a chicken dinner. And we were just, we just gave that to an endowed fund at Children's Hospital. And then that was the local Children's Hospital. Then we reached out to the Children's Hospital where my daughter had been operated on. I had a child who was born with a pretty seriously, in need of some pretty serious surgery as a baby. And she wouldn't have died, but she could have been messed up. And we lucked out. And so between the doctors who operated on her and then the new hospital that was later opened in our community, we just give little percentage points. It's $200 there. It's $300 there. Some of my clients have said, here's $1,000, whatever. And we turned around one day and it was $70,000. Now, wow. I don't come from a family who has their name on the walls of hospitals, but at both the Austin Children's Hospital and the San Diego Children's Hospital, we have the Kate Singer Endowment for Craniofacial Surgery and Research. And wow. So we talked about the fact that you don't have to be rich or give a giant sum to have a real impact. And a few years ago, the lady from the foundation, she's not there anymore, but who was my original contact at San Diego Rady Children's Hospital, said, she goes, Tom, how do I get 1,000 entrepreneurs just to pledge tiny amounts and stick with it for a decade? Because it just that sticking with it and growing, and then other people giving. And we do a fundraiser in February on Kate's birthday. And, today Kate's fine. She has no memory of this. The deformity that she had was totally corrected. She had to have her entire skull, the cap of her skull, removed when she was 6 months old, but it grew back. And she's now, she's a high school junior. She's a straight A student. She just took a practice SAT. She did pretty damn well, better than her dad ever did on an SAT. And she's smart, she's beautiful, she's precocious. But we felt very fortunate. So we wanted to find a way, even with limited funds, to do that. And so while I was starting my business, we just pledged a little teeny percentage every time. And I think that when businesses do that, the business and the employees don't miss, the $3. But when you
right.
pool it all together over many years, all of a sudden you look back and go, hey, how did we do that?
It is amazing. When we started the Lendio Gives initiative, we were kind of saying that, a few of us donating, but we basically said, take a cup of coffee, and instead of getting that one day, pay it forward, $3 to $5. And we started funding these loans, and it was such a small amount, and then they'd repay the loan, and then we'd reinvest it back, and we just kept this cycle going. And now, we have all these employees and 80% participation of $5 a month or $5 a paycheck. And it is growing, and we keep reinvesting it back in. And it is that the power of, investing small, and it just compounds on top of each other.
Yeah.
It is very, very powerful. I'm a huge believer.
It's the art of giving small, and you can
the art of giving small. There you go.
You can find that on the TEDx YouTube page, or you can go to tomsinger.com/TEDx, and you can see that. But what's more important is on that page on my website, I also have Kate did a TEDx talk before I ever did. I'm the professional speaker. When she was 15 years old, she did a TEDx talk at a TEDx youth event about how not to listen to your parents and just do your own thing early on.
That's so cool.
Yeah. She's
good for her.
Yeah, she's pretty precocious. She heard about this thing and she's like, I'll do it. And then they picked her. So it was like, wow, look at that.
That's so cool.
Hey, Brock, thank you so much for being a guest here on Cool Things Entrepreneurs Do. If somebody's listened to this and they need to get a hold of Lendio, maybe they need a loan, or they just think you're really cool and they need to know more about the company and how to find you, how do they do that?
Come to lendio.com, lendio.com. We have team members we call funding managers that are assigned to every single business owner that comes through our platform. And so when you fill out your application, one of our team members will reach out to you and interview you. What's going on? What are you trying to accomplish? And then work with you to be able to help you get the best loan that you can possibly get. And we'd love to work with any of your audience members because it's been a true pleasure being on your podcast.
No, it's been great having you. I hope our paths cross again at some point. And you're also on Twitter, just at Brock Blake. No spaces, nothing else. I noticed that. Any other social media where people can find you?
Yep, Brock. Just on Twitter's my primary account. Just at Brock Blake, all one word, right together. So
awesome. Well, I appreciate you being a guest, and I say it every time. Thanks for tuning in, because if it wasn't for the audience, why would we have this show? So thank you for being part of the Cool Things Entrepreneurs Do community. Come back every week. We have really interesting interviews on Thursday. On Tuesdays, it's just me sharing whatever is on my mind. Some people like those shows better. Some people like the interviews better. Let me know which ones you like. You can reach out to me on Twitter at Tom Singer, TomSinger.com, or at Cool Podcast. I'm also all over the internet, just Tom Singer. Don't forget the H. My website is TomSinger.com. If you like the show, go over to iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts and leave a review and subscribe. Subscribing to a show is the number one way you can help a podcast, because they rank the shows based on new subscriptions. So walk around your office and tell everybody who has an iPhone. Right now, everybody go to iTunes. Search Cool Things Entrepreneurs Do. Get everyone in the company to subscribe all at once. I don't know if that would help my rankings, but it would be fun for me. So either way, come back and listen to the next show. You can always go into the archives. We have 450 plus shows before this one, and we'll see you soon. So go out there and try something new. And in the meantime, while you're doing it, have fun along the way. Have a great day.
Thank you for being part of the Cool Things Entrepreneurs Do podcast. Without your participation and listening to these conversations, there is no show. Connect with Tom at TomSinger.com and follow him on Twitter at TomSinger.